Hello and welcome to Chicory's maintenance series. This week I'm going to do a little tip and trick on reduced flow for any kind of sea strainer. I've done a video before about cleaning sea strainers, and so I didn't necessarily want to cover this time. However, I came across an issue that is a little unusual, and I have some ideas to share with you about how I fix these things. So this is the 6 kilowatt generator's sea strainer. And last night when we started up the generator, one of the things we always do is monitor how much is coming out of the exhaust. And Tracy noticed that there was an appreciable decrease in the amount of water coming out. So we shut it down, started up the 12 kilowatt, and just knew that this morning we were going to address this. I opened up the sea strainer and there was a little bit of debris, but not enough for it to make sense. So one of the things that I always do is I have the sea cock here. It comes directly up to here, and what I can do is I can open this sea cock and I can see how much water flows into here. And because I've done this so many times, I know exactly how much flow should happen if this hose and the strainer on the outside is completely unobstructed. I'm going to open this up and kind of show you what's going on, and you'll notice normally this should go and fill up very quickly. This is showing me that this hose somewhere along the line is completely blocked. I'm going to shut the sea cock, and my first step is I'm going to remove these two hose clamps, pull this hose off. I'm going to blow on it and open the sea cock simultaneously and try and just blow out whatever's in here. If it's grass or some sort of bag or something, that will work well. If that doesn't work, a lot of times what I have to do is remove this elbow, because this elbow has a little bit of a restriction and something gets caught in there. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to then show you the process of blowing through it, and we'll see if that works. And if it doesn't, I'll show you the next step. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I have the hose off, and I put a towel here for two reasons. Obviously there could be a little water spilling out, but also it helps me keep these hose clamps from sliding down the hose and going into the bilge, where it's difficult to get at. So just a little tip there too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to purse my lips on the outside of this hose. I'm going to pressurize the hose as much as I can with my lungs, and then I'm going to open the sea cock. And I suspect you won't be able to hear it, but a lot of times I can hear the of air going out and bubbling up the side of the hull. If that happens, then I'll reconnect it. And if not, then we'll know that the leak is bigger than I can do. So here we go. Pretty much popped a vein in my head and there was no air came out. So the next step is for me to take the hose clamps off here, see if the blockage is somewhere in this hose, and if not, then I'm going to take off this elbow, but I'll be back. Okay, I'm back again. I'm just going to blow through the hose. Air comes out very easily, so I know that the hose is clear. So now what I'm going to do is open this valve and let's see how much water comes out through the sea cock. Virtually nothing. So that means I'm going to take off this elbow and see if the restriction's there, and I'll continue this process with you, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I have two crescent wrenches. I'm going to put my larger one on the actual sea cock valve so I don't turn it, and then I'm going to put the other one on the 90. Oh, there we go. It's stuck a little bit. There we go. And then if you zoom in on that, you can see why we're having issues. And then what I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to clear this out. And then right now I'm going to open this up. Water's going to squirt up a little bit, but it'll tell me if from this point to the hull is clear. Oh, definitely clear. So that's narrowed down that this elbow is the issue. So I'm going to clean this out and start reassembling. So I'm in the engine room. I had just handed this up to Tracy, and she said she should have filmed it because it was literally just boop and it was out. So it wasn't needing to jam a screwdriver through or anything, very easy. So I'm going to start to reassemble. I just want you to know that I highly recommended Fast Seal ATS. This is only attributable to metal connections. If you have like a PVC to metal, it won't work. It's an anaerobic thing. So as soon as oxygen is deprived of this and it is in the presence of metal, it makes an amazing seal that's up to like 10,000 psi. It's really, really great stuff. And it has this great applicator where you can just ooze it on, and it's not like the old brush kind. So I've just filled all of the threads. I'm going to close the tip. Just a teeny bit, a little cleanup there. That's great. I'm going to screw this in to the seacock. And I don't need to use 2 wrenches on this one because I'm tightening. You can see I've got the hose here, so I don't want to tighten too much. I don't think I can get a full revolution, and I don't want to have this pointing this way. So I'm going to be very careful with how far I go. And actually it is pretty tight. I'm happy with that right there. And then this pipe dope stays supple forever. And once it gets on your hands, it's awful. So I always take paper towels and then wipe up the excess because you'll thank me later for it because it is really, really messy stuff. So then it's just a matter of putting these hoses back on with the hose clamps, and I'll be back in a second to show you what normal flow should look like when it goes into the sea strainer. So it's time to test now. I have the hoses connected up again, and the thing I want you to sort of pay attention to is how fast the water goes up within here. I'm going to actually put this here because a lot of times it flows pretty well. So ready? That's exactly how it's supposed to flow. It usually takes like 3 seconds to fill this up. And if it's flowing like that, I know that everything's here. And so that's something that you should do with your boat, is understand when everything is working correctly, what it looks like, so that you can better diagnose issues when there's a restriction. So I'm just going to fill the rest of this up very carefully up until this line where the cap goes. And I'm going to screw the cap on. And this is done, and we'll start up the 6 kilowatt and see how it looks with flow, but I'm confident that everything's gonna be great. Okay, so I'm ready to start the 6 kilowatt, and I thought I'd just show you these control panels. Obviously I have the 6 here and the 12 here, and we have a little chalkboard where we put when the oil change is necessary for each unit. And you can see we have a little plastic shield that blocks the starting mechanism so we don't hit it. You can probably hear a clicking in the background because the 6 kilowatt is so high up, it's in the cockpit. We actually have a electric fuel pump that we turn on prior to starting the engine because the mechanical fuel pump on the engine doesn't have enough power to pull up the fuel all the way from the fuel tanks, which are like 3 feet below them. So I'm just going to put the preheat on. So the preheat's on, you can see the lights coming on. I'm going to count to 10, and then the glow plugs have gone. So now I'm going to turn it over, and you hold the preheat on until you get oil pressure to make sure that it doesn't shut down. So now what I'm going to do is get out of where I am. I'm going to open up the back door. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look over the edge. See how the water is. You can see the water coming out. We have an air sept, which means that right here is where the exhaust comes out, and here is where the water comes out for the exhaust. And that's the correct amount of flow. I'm going to show you how that air sept works. here it is right here. So the exhaust comes from the muffler with water, comes up in here, and exhaust comes out one end and water comes out the other. So we've tested the 6 kilowatt and everything's ready to go back together. I was just going to show you a couple things quickly. The sound enclosure for these new style are super easy. It's just a matter of doing that. I have to remove this little dock box or boat hook, and then the front panel is like that, and then the starboard enclosure flips on like that, and then I just have fasteners that put that on that I'm going to do, but you don't need to see that. So I'm just going to end this video now, and thank you again for commenting, viewing, liking, and subscribing. Until next week, I'll see you.